So you're fixing to sell your car, but the whole process has you a little stressed out and overwhelmed? Well, in this step-by-step video, I'm going to guide you through the process from idea of selling your car to getting it sold and hopefully help you make a little bit more money than you thought. Now, according to my friends and family, I go through way too many cars. Well, maybe they're right, but in going through so many cars, I've formulated this really easy process in getting them sold, and I'm going to share that with you all in this video. I'm sitting in my in-laws' 2009 Lexus RX 350, and they agreed to let me help them sell it. So without further ado, let's jump right into it and get this car sold for more money than they think. So step number one, we got to show that new buyer that we actually cared for this car, even if you didn't. How do we show that we cared for the car? We got to go clean it. Now, once your car's had a really nice bath, take a step back from it and take a look at it. There's probably pieces that you missed, like the dirt on the back seat or this trim piece that's gotten all gray and not black anymore. So go ahead and fix things like that. And while we're going through the car, you're gonna wanna look at its windshield wipers and its headlights and make sure that all those little easy mechanical things are fixed and up in working order. And while we're poking around the car, go ahead and check the oil levels, the radiator, the brake fluid levels. All these are pretty simple things to check and probably not going to be checked by your future buyer. But if you find somebody who's a future buyer that is sort of a car guy, kind of mechanical, they're probably gonna check the oil level. And if they pull that dipstick out and there's no oil in your car. And another thing I always do when selling a car is make sure it has a full gas tank. Nothing's worse than going to visit a car with thousands of dollars of cash that you're about to lay down to have to spend $100 to fill the gas tank up. This is also a really key thing in negotiation. If I'm about to buy a car, then have to go put gas in it, I'm gonna ask for less of a price. Vice versa, if I'm selling a car and the buyer's asking for $100 off, I'm gonna say no way, it's got a full tank of gas. And while we're poking around the car, something else you wanna do is clear all your user settings. So if you have a contact list, if you have a map with your home address, and if you have a garage door opener, make sure all those settings are gone. All right, our car is all sparkly clean, so it's time for step two in selling our car. So step two is taking the pictures. Now there's actually quite a bit to taking pictures. The main rule is we want to beat the competition. We want our photos to look better than every other RX 350's photo out there. And how we're going to do that is we're going to find a really nice location. Nothing's worse than seeing a picture of a car that's shoved in a garage under a bunch of boxes. So find an open area. Behind a supermarket works well. I'm out here in the middle of a field. There's lots of open locations out there. Just make sure your background is clear of anything that could distract from the picture of your car. Now for camera angles and the photos to take, I usually take a lot of photos, but what I'm ever only posting is roughly 4 to 5 photos. And the reason I do this is if you have 4 to 5 really nice photos, this is gonna intrigue interest with your new potential buyer to reach out to you and start a conversation. Those 4 or 5 photos I normally post are usually the front left driver's side, the back rear passenger side, a big wide open picture of the interior, and then maybe a trunk picture and a wheel or tire picture. If my tires have a lot of tread left on them, I'll stick a penny in the tire to show how much tread is left. And then a question that kind of comes up often is, do I need to cover my license plate? I typically don't like it when somebody's sticking their finger in a picture and just blocking their license plate. Yeah, that's easy to do, but it's also very easy to pull your photo into paint and throw a little box over it. All right, back behind my computer, it's time for step number 3, and that is to get this vehicle posted. Okay, bye. Now, when you're going to post your car, there's some times of years that are better than others. So in spring, people are getting their tax returns. In summer, there's a lot of like family vacations and stuff like that. And then in fall, you know, people are getting their vehicles for going to school and things. Winter is probably about the worst because it's raining out and people are spending all their money on gifts and things like that. So considering what time of year you're posting is not gonna make or break you selling the car. It's just some times of the year are better than others. Now you're ready to post. So what I always do is go on like a Kelly Blue Book or a different value car calculator and then put in all the parameters for your car. It's important to put in the parameters very honestly. If you have a door ding or if you have a complete missing smashed quarter panel, this is a little bit different than actually having a door ding. Now with all your information honestly put in, make sure that you're looking at the private seller value, not the trade-in value. I had a friend who inspired me to make this video who went on CarMax, put in the value of his like 2016 WRX, which is like a $15,000 or $16,000 car, and he ended up selling it for $6 grand because he thought that was the value of his car based on CarMax's trade-in value. Also do some research based on your geographic location. If you're selling an electric vehicle like a Prius in a city, it's gonna do a whole lot better than out in the country. Now with all the research done, I always like to set a price about 10 to 15% higher than what I actually wanna get for it. And the reason I do this is the buyer is always gonna wanna chew a little bit off, and you might have the potential to make a little bit more. So giving you an example, if I want to make $10,000 on my car, I'm gonna list it for $11,000 or $11,500. Now, when I go to meet the actual buyer and they think the price is $11,500 and then they offer me $10,500 for it, when I have in my mind $10,000, then great, I made an extra 500 bucks and I can go put some nice new window tint on my new ride. All right, with your price in mind and all your nice pictures taken, it's time to post it. So where to post it? I used to use Craigslist a lot, but Craigslist started charging $5 for a car post, and I never get a lot of return from Craigslist, so I stopped posting there. What I like to use is Facebook Marketplace, but the downside to Facebook Marketplace is you'll get a lot of people just wanting to chit chat with you about the car. You'll also get a lot of scams, but I'm gonna go over what to do and what to look out for with those scams later in this chapter. The other one I use is OfferUp. OfferUp is cool, but what you get is a lot of offers. That's why it's called OfferUp. People treat it like a auction website or something like that. So you're gonna get people completely cutting your price in half, but you will potentially find a good buyer there too. Now you got your pictures done, your price right, and you know where to post, so now it's time to write your description. What I do is I always open up a text document, then I follow this kind of template. I'm gonna leave a link to this template in the description of this video. Pretty much the template is the history of your car, how you've used it, how many miles you've put on it, things like that. And then I just bullet point out nice features of the car. Does it have 2 key fobs, the mileage, some minor paint damage on the front bumper? I list it for the fair price I came up with all my nice pictures, and now we sit back and wait. Which brings me to section 4, communicating and meeting up with your new potential buyer. Now, rule number 1 in communicating with your new buyer is don't be too eager. If they want to meet that night, don't meet that night. Meet like a day or two later, meet in the middle of the day. It's important to show you don't have to sell this car right now. But if you do show them you have to sell this car right now, they're gonna offer you a lesser price. So then what happens when you post and you get a ton of messages and a ton of cash offers for right around what you're asking? Well, you probably listed it for too low. So what I would recommend doing is to pull the post down, bump that price up about 5%, repost it, talk to that whole new set of buyers. Opposite to that, if you get no responses, then I would wait like a week or two, see if you get 1 or 2 responses, and then maybe consider dropping that price until you're getting it. Both of these though, you kind of have to consider what you really want out of the car. Do you just want to get it sold and out of your way? Then take that lower half of what you want, which is going to be like the lower half of the Kelley Blue Book offering price, or wait a couple weeks and get that top half of the Kelley Blue Book offering price. You just got to consider, do you want to wait and make a couple hundred extra bucks, or do you want to get it gone? So now playing out a couple scenarios with your messages that you're going to be getting in Messenger and OfferUp. So what might happen is somebody might reach out to you in Messenger, giving you a cash offer for a little bit more than what you had in mind. This is great. You can take that cash offer, but what you need to consider is when you actually meet this person, they could possibly take that cash offer that they gave you, see the car and be like, oh, well, you didn't tell me about this, this, and this, and then offer you a little bit less, maybe reaching that price that you had in your mind. Or you could stick to your guns and say like, no, we communicated this price over the phone, so just go ahead and take that price. Another way that this might all pan out is somebody sends you a message of close to a price that you'll accept. You counter offer them for a couple $100 more, and then you sit there eagerly waiting for them to reply and say, yeah, that sounds like a great price. Well, don't respond to that. Just let that play out. They're either going to say, yeah, that price sounds great, give you a counter offer, or not respond to you again. If they want the car, they're going to reach back out. If they don't want the car, you don't need to seem eager to sell the car. Otherwise, they're going to say, nah, I think this guy will eventually take my price and I'm just gonna sit here and wait, and they're gonna do the counter waiting, eagerness, patient thing to you. So now, as I have promised, and now that you have a post, you're probably getting some messages that seem a little scammy. So here are some scams to look out for. When somebody asks you for the VIN number, that's not a scam. That's people just wanting to do a smog check or do their own Carfax history report. It's kind of a good sign. If they ask you for the VIN, then they're probably looking to spend about $40 on getting a vehicle history report. Not a big deal. Share that VIN. Now, completely opposite, is if somebody is asking you for a vehicle history report, that's a big old red flag, because there's this scam going on right now where somebody builds a vehicle history site on top of a dummy site like Carfax or something like that. But what they do is they say, hey, can you give me a vehicle history report? Here's a link to a website I like to use. So what they'll do is they'll charge you that $80. You get a history report back for $40. They pocket their $40, and then you never hear from them again.
What?
And then another thing to look out for, it's kind of obvious, but if somebody's asking you for your Venmo account or your bank information so that they can make a deposit, don't do that. That's your bank information given to somebody you don't even know. So you've talked to somebody, they seem pretty interested in seeing your car. So at this point, it would be good to exchange phone numbers so you can text or call. When you have this initial call, set a meeting place that is well lit, open, and meet somebody during the day. I like to meet somebody during the day because at night it's sketchy. I never met this person. Also, when you're communicating with this new potential buyer, if you still have a loan on the car, you're going to have to communicate this at this point. It's not going to break your deal if you do have a loan. You just have to take some steps to ensure the buyer that you're legit. I have this loan. We can go to the bank. We could pay this off together. Like, once you hand me the cash, I'll pay the loan off in front of you. And then once you receive the pink slip, I'll ship you the pink slip. You just have to be super clear in communicating that if you have a loan, you have a loan. Or easiest case, you have the pink slip. Yep, I got the title. I'll see you on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Okay, so it's now time to meet the potential buyer. What I like to do is find a nice open location, like I'm sitting in here, this parking lot of this pharmacy. And I always arrive about 15 minutes early, because when somebody's gonna go buy your car, they're eager to buy your car. So they might show up about 10 minutes early. And what you wanna do is you wanna find a good spot for your car that's well lit in an open area. So when they're pulling up, they see the whole car and they get all excited to look at it. What you also wanna do is you're sitting in the car, you're gonna see the new potential driver come up, and you wanna see how many people are in the car. If it's just one person, it's not a deal breaker, but that means you're not gonna sell the car right there and then, which is kind of what you wanna do. You're gonna have to say, okay, give me a deposit, I'm gonna take the post down, and then we'll meet and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a bummer. But in most cases, what happens is somebody shows up, they have a friend or a family member with them. That's a good sign. They walk out of the car, you shake hands, say hello. One of them says, oh, honey, I left my purse in the car. Can you lock it? That's another good sign, because that means that they brought the cash. Another great sign, they brought a trailer. So these are just kind of buying cues to look out for when the new potential buyer arrives, and what to look for to make sure that you're not just going to be wasting your time letting somebody kick your tires. Okay, so when somebody shows up, now they like the car, it's kind of time for the negotiation of price. This is where it gets a little nerve-wracking. What you got to do is just keep your price in mind and stay calm. Don't be eager to sell. You've set your price, you know your price in your mind, that's 10 to 15% higher. If they want to take 20% off, don't do it. You got to play this game of, this is the price I have it listed, this is my price I want, and then they're going to go to here, and then you're going to go to here, and then they're going to go here, and then eventually you'll meet in the middle. And it's just this back and forth game you unfortunately have to play when selling a car, but that's why we list it for 10 to 15% higher. And we had to play this game because when you're buying something, you want to feel like you got a deal. So just like getting a discount at a discount store or anything like that, when you have it listed for 15% and then they offer you 5% more than what you wanted, great. Now your deal's done, car sold. And one last thing is to only take cash. Cashier checks can be frauded and reported as like, oh no, I didn't actually cash that cashier's check. And then when you go to deposit the cashier's check, it could not actually work and now your car is gone. That's terrible. Don't do anything over like a Venmo or a Zelle unless you really know the person, like you're selling to a family member. I wouldn't ever use a website like that. Cash is easy to take out. If they want to buy the car, they're going to figure out how to take the cash out. So in the end, just be clear, be honest, be yourself, have your price in mind. Don't be too eager. You're going to get your car sold. All right, they bought the car, which brings us into step 5, the boring process of selling it. So I may be old school with this, but when you've sold your car, just, shake hands on it. and say, yeah, we got a deal. Let's make this happen. From there, after you shook hands and agreed, it's just about becoming friends and chit-chatting and being excited for them that they have this new car that you've taken such great care of and you love, and you know, all that good stuff. So when you're going to sell the car, you're going to want to fill out a bill of sale. Not necessarily something you have to do, but I like to fill out a bill of sale. It releases your liability from the time you sign that document. So in case they go off and get in a wreck or rob a bank or something like that, the liability of that car is not on you anymore. I have a bill of sale linked into the description of this video too to help you all out. So then at this point of the cash exchange and the loans and not loans, if you have a pink, it's very easy. You're just going to fill out the pink. How you actually fill out a pink, you just follow the prompts that it says. It will say buyer, seller, you sign the correct sections, and then you're done with that. Also, when you're filling out the pink and the bill of sale, and you know this buyer well, you want to set a price that they bought it for. It's completely acceptable to say you actually sold a car for $10,000. On the pink or the bill of sale, you can write less than that so that the new buyer doesn't have to pay a 10% sales tax on $10,000. They could pay a 10% sales tax on like $3,000. It's the benefit of buying privately. Another thing to keep in mind is if you have a wad of cash that's more than $10,000, you're going to want to look into your bank account on how much deposit amount you're allowed to make within a 48-hour to week period. Some banks will flag more than $10,000 deposits, whether you do it through an ATM or a teller. So you might need to space out your deposits of your cash. But if you're somebody who puts in a lot of cash, like say you put in $14,000 into your bank account, but you don't do this often at all, then you're probably not going to get flagged. But to be safe, I like to just space out my input of my money into my bank account so that my bank doesn't flag any of the transactions and my money gets held up. All right, this is a funny one, but worth saying. But when you are selling your car and you filled out your pink slips and your bill of sales and they handed you this giant wad of cash to count, it's a little nerve-wracking grabbing this whole wad of cash and counting it. And then this complete stranger is watching you count all this cash that they just gave because they want to make sure that they gave it right. Don't get nervous with this, just take your time. And how I like to count the cash is they're gonna usually hand you a wad of hundreds. And I like to count out just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's $1,000. Put it off to the side like an angle. So I have $1,000 and then I count another $1,000 out and I stack it like this. Then I count another 1,000 until I reach a $5,000 pile. And then I'll put that $5,000 pile off to the side and then just go 5,000, 5,000, 15,000, whatever, until you reach it. It sounds ridiculous, but when you're sitting there with 147 Benjamins, it's a little nerve-wracking to count out all that money and you don't want to miss a couple $100 by miscounting. Just take your time to counting your bills and don't worry about what the new buyer is thinking that you're counting slow or something like that. They're just excited they bought this car and that they did the math right on their side. With the cash exchange and the pink slip filled out, this is probably the most important step of all, is not forgetting that you're not completely done with selling the car. You need to take the bottom of your pink slip and put it in the mail and send it to the post. In fact, before you drive out to your random parking lot where you're going to meet your potential buyer, grab an envelope, give it some postage, look at your pink slip on where to mail the bottom half of that pink slip to. And once you've sold your car, just drop that in the mail on the way home, because that postage date and stamp is going to release the liability of your car from the DMV. Yes, you have the bill of sale, but this is the legal document that releases your liability. You're going to also want to call your insurance and cancel your insurance, because again, this is another way of tracking that you've released the liability of your car, because you've called your insurance and canceled your policy at this time and day. Plus, you're not paying for that insurance anymore. So just get all those last little legal bits done and then you're done. All right, everybody. So that was the whole entire video on how to sell your car. I really hope it helped you out. If you have a lot of experience in selling or buying cars and I missed any steps, please leave a comment. If this kind of video intrigued you, check out my channel for more. I did make a lot of these car related videos, and thanks for watching.